Teflon Don just took back $100 billion from China, immediately hands it over to who deserves it, by Al Waisman for DailyVine.com. We finally have a president who is doing what he promised and putting the American people before any other foreign nation. Although he didn't give specifics, President Donald Trump has now asked the nation of China to develop a plan in order to reduce its trade surplus with the United States. Just as he promised during his 2016 campaign for the U.S. presidency, Trump is starting to harden U.S. position when it comes to trade, an area where he correctly says the U.S. has been getting a raw deal for decades now. Part of this hardening came in his announcement earlier this week, where he said he was enacting heavy tariffs on the import of steel and aluminum to the U.S. by China. Although the news of these new steel tariffs made Wall Street nervous, they mean very good news for the American middle class, who has been abandoned by politicians on both sides of the aisle for decades now. In fact, one steel mill is already set to open after decades of closure and will employ over 500 steel workers. That's at least 500 families who will be able to afford to buy goods again. Sounds like a win-win. Even though many say tariffs are bad because they raise prices, what's the point in having low prices if you don't have a job in which to make money to buy anything anyways? Plus, historically, whenever the stock market has done too well, it usually means Main Street is suffering. Under President Trump, both areas are moving forward. Just the China deficit reduction will bring back over $100 billion. That's $100 billion that will go straight to American workers. How can anyone be against that? Don't you agree? It's great that for once we have a president who thinks about the working class and the white-collar worker too. Via trading economics, China unexpectedly reported a trade surplus of USD 33.74 billion in February of 2018, compared to a USD 0.1 billion gap in the same month a year earlier, while markets estimated a USD 2.3 billion deficit. Exports jumped by 44.5% year on year to USD 171.6 billion, while imports rose 6.3%, USD 137.9 billion. The trade surplus with the US, China's largest export market, narrowed slightly to USD 21.0 billion from 21.9 billion in January. Trade in January and February can be distorted by the Lunar New Year holiday, with business slowing down weeks ahead of time and companies scaling back operations. This year, the holiday fell on February 16th. Considering January through February combined, the trade surplus came to a USD 54.3 billion, an increase of 43.6% from January to February of 2017. Exports in that period grew by 24.4%, much higher than a 4% growth in the same period a year earlier. Imports advanced 21.7%. Balance of trade in China averaged 98 USD HML. I don't know what that means. From 1983 until 2018, reaching an all-time high of 628.33 USD HML in February of 2015, and a record low of 319.71 USD HML in February of 2012. It might be on the chart. And I can't see it too well because it doesn't say. Okay, but it's a positive effect anyway. So China unexpectedly post surplus in February. China unexpectedly reported a trade surplus of 33.74 billion. in February of 2018 compared to a USD 0.1 billion gap in the same month a year earlier, while markets estimated a USD of 2.3 billion deficit. Exports jumped by 44.5%. Didn't we read that? Anyway, let's get to the gist of the matter here. The trade surplus with the U.S., China's largest export market, narrowed slightly to USD 21.0 billion from 21.9 billion in January. Considering January through February combined, we read that part already. In yuan denominated terms, the trade surplus was at CNY 224.9 billion in February. Exports jumped by 36.2% year on year after a 6% rise in January. Purchases declined by 0.2% compared to a 30.2% gain in a month earlier. Over the January-February period combined, the trade surplus came in at CNY 362.2 billion, with exports increased by 18% year on year, while imports growing by 15.2%. Trade in January and February can be distorted by the Lunar New Year holiday. We know that. So, bottom line, Trump is looking out for the country, and they're all in shock because they did not expect this, you know what I'm saying? So, that's why we elected Trump, for this purpose, because he is a businessman and he knows better what's going on with all of this stuff that, the regular everyday American doesn't really, look at these figures, you know what I'm saying? So, if I'm going to have somebody at the helm, you can guarantee it's going to be Trump, Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.